K-cinema comes to Paris at the annual Korean Film Festival. Canadian choreographer Crystal Pite strikes a poignant note at the Paris Opera, and a new musical here in the French capital brings a ghostly screen romance to the stage. Well, that's all coming up in today's show. We're kicking off here in Paris, albeit with a little detour to South Korea. The country celebrating the centenary of their film industry at a time when its domestic cinema is riding a wave of popularity abroad. Director Bong Joon-ho's Parasite won the prestigious Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival this year. That's a first for a Korean filmmaker. But moviegoers here in France have long been fans of Korean cinema, and there's even a dedicated festival showcasing those productions here in Paris. Yenna Lee and Mary Schuster went to check it out.
A full house on opening night for the 14th edition of the Paris Korean Film Festival. The event has grown simultaneously with the popularity of Korean cinema in Europe. Every year, devoted fans and curious moviegoers can take their pick from an eclectic mix of blockbusters and independent movies.
Only a select few Korean films are released in France, when there's actually such a diverse range out there. There's comedy, drama, documentaries, historical movies, and many are genre-defying, which is fascinating.
60 short and long films are being projected onto the big screen until November 5th. This year's special guests, actor Song Kang-ho and director Kim Ji-woon, are presenting 3 productions they made together over the span of 2 decades.
Our collaboration explores human nature. We take on stories that aren't black or white, stories that have a lot of sensitivity. From an actor's point of view, it's something that really inspires me.
From a tribute to Sergio Leone in the 2008 film The Good, the Bad, the Weird, to spy action movie The Age of Shadows, the two have pushed boundaries when it comes to genres.
People say I'm some kind of master of genres. It's not at all that. The fact is, every time I tried a new genre, every time I knocked on that door, Song Kang-ho was there, and he opened that door for me.
The latest film Song starred in won the top prize at the Cannes Film Festival. Director Bong Joon-ho's Parasite reignited an interest in what South Korea has to offer. From Hollywood to Cannes to Paris, Korean cinema has been making its mark around the world. Now, with an annual spot here on the Champs Élysées Avenue, the Paris Korean Film Festival is an occasion for film lovers to discover or rediscover productions that are becoming cult references in the world of cinema.
Next, to a choreographer and dancer who's brought her daring, ambitious vision to Paris's most prestigious stage, the Opéra Garnier. Crystal Pite has been applauded for her bold and emotional pieces, and her latest performance is entitled Body and Soul, a sweeping story in 3 acts. Our reporters went to find out more about her creative process and took a peek at the preparations for opening night.
A movement that ripples through the dancers as they become the sea incarnate. Crystal Pite is back at the Paris Opera with her latest work, Body and Soul. 3 years ago, the Canadian choreographer made a name for herself in France with the season's Canon. The show was a hit. Every night ended with a standing ovation. Pite was a professional dancer for over a decade before becoming a choreographer. Here, under the domed roof of the opera, she works on one of the group scenes.
Okay, this might be goofy, but I want to try it. I try to be as prepared as I possibly can, but I also need to leave space for the unknown. I need to leave space for discoveries that I find with the dancers, and that I'm able to draw on their strengths and respond to what they can do and their own ideas. If I don't leave space for that, then the work is not alive and it's not an exchange.
Nothing is written down. The film of the show will be its only record. The dance is worked out step by step during rehearsals.
Can we be like
She speaks a lot about emotions, about why we're doing specific movements. When we hear the music, there's a physical memory that's there, engraved in our skin.
The whispers of an actress listing the parts of the body in movement are layered over the dance. Another striking element, the perfectly synchronized precision of each movement. As the group undulates across the stage in harmony, and couples twist sensually in tandem. The show will run until the 23rd of November.
Now we're staying at the opera and taking a look at an artist whose very name conjures up images of ballet dancers, of movement, and of the wings of that very same building. Edgar Degas was fascinated by the inner workings of the opera as a social institution, producing a prolific amount of work focused on performers and their audience. Now Paris's Musée d'Orsay has brought together many of those iconic pieces. Luc Schrago takes a look.
Edgar Degas' Little Dancer, aged 14, was an unflinching depiction of the young women who suffered for their art in the 19th century and was condemned as frightfully ugly at the time. Hyper-realistic, it was to become an iconic sculpture, as with much of the rest of his work dedicated to the subject matter.
Degas' study was not only about the dancers, their movement, it's also the relationship with opera in general, the institution, the building itself, the people who inhabit it, the dancers, the musicians, and so on. It affects his musical tastes, the way he includes figures in the scenery.
Degas' mystery lay in his ability to portray an illusion. Far from working behind the scenes or in the wings, he hardly ever sketched in the theatre itself, giving people the impression they were really there. He peeled back the veneer, exposing a grubbier underside to the opera, such as the mothers who would push their young daughters towards what were euphemistically called patrons, depicted as dark, shadowy presences on the canvas, the men who might use the dancers as sexual playthings.
It's not about what's on the stage, it's not about spectacle. He does very few paintings of performances, very few paintings of the audience. It's about the life behind the scenes, this throbbing heart of the opera very few had access to. That sort of behind the scenes. People could buy their ticket and sit in the stalls and watch the performance. But Degas shows them something they could never have access to.
After the age of 40, Degas began suffering from bad eyesight. At the end of his life, he was almost blind, though that wouldn't prevent him from continuing to produce flamboyant works, with dance remaining his great theme haunting his art until his death.
Fans of musical theatre here in Paris have a new show to add to their repertoire. Ghost the Musical has arrived in the French capital. The stage adaptation of the hit film premiered in Manchester in 2011 and has since hit stages around the world. The show's style, choreography and direction has changed along the way, and this time many of the original songs have been adapted into French. Catherine Kadir-Clifford has more.
She's a musical medium, but a fake one, until one day she starts hearing voices. French Ivorian actress and comedian Claudia Tagbo is possessing Paris audiences with her performance in Ghost the Musical.
T'es où exactement, hein?
Derrière toi.
Ah, maman! J'en étais sûre, tu es blanc et t'es mort, pas vrai?
Évidemment que je suis mort.
Oh, un mort me parle, un mort blanc. Reste pas assis avec ta robe.
She's known for her one-woman shows, but this time Claudia Tagbo has the whole Ghost the Musical troupe behind her. Claudia loves music, but singing and dancing on stage was a first for her. She had to get through 5 auditions to snag the role.
Singing isn't as hard as I thought it would be. The most difficult thing is trying to synchronize it all. The choreography, for those who think I'm a good dancer, I can tell you I can't count. 1, 2, 1, 2, it's ugh.
It's the musical on-stage adaptation of the cult 1990 film Ghost, a thriller and love story about a potter, played by Demi Moore, and her murdered lover, Patrick Swayze, who communicates with her through a psychic, Whoopi Goldberg. During 6 weeks of intensive rehearsals, the cast worked with the professional stuntmen on fight scenes. Gregory Benchenafi plays the murdered boyfriend. He had to learn to play an invisible man.
It's difficult for the other actors to have me close to them, to hear me speak, to hear me breathe in their ear, and to act as if I'm not there. It was a huge challenge for the whole team, and we burst out laughing a few times.
Watch out for some impressive on-stage special effects, like this scene on the metro. Claudia Tagbo injects humour into this musical about grief and the trace loved ones leave in our lives.
Well, we'll end the show with some images from an innovative art fair. Photo Fever is taking place below the Louvre Museum in Paris, where galleries from around the world are showing work at the event, which is aimed at promoting new and emerging photographers, as well as encouraging budding collectors to purchase their first print. Here's a glimpse of what's on show. Otherwise, remember, you can get more arts and culture on our website, and you can keep up with Encore on social media too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
Hello and welcome to all of you. Welcome to the special edition of Tech 24 out of Reunion Island. It was once an important stopping point for vessels sailing on the spice trade routes. Today, the French Overseas Department of Reunion Island has a new ambition: to become a regional tech hub, a gateway between Asia, Africa, India, and the rest of Europe.
Tech 24, presented by Julia Seeger on France 24 and France24.com.